Welcome, everybody, to the reboot of the VDC podcast, name TBD. I'm your co-host, Paco, aka the Retired God from LG Apprentice. I'm here with my phenomenal co-host, Jordo, aka BrimmywithDaHemi, hashtag bang. Say what's up, man.
What's up, everybody? We're back. The Brimmy Stack has been reformed, and now we're in a podcast format. And we hope to bring everybody some exciting news from the VDC Season 6. We've got some exciting and juicy details here today on predictions for the season. Without further ado, we'll get into those with our new first guest of the season, Kirbs.
What's up? What's up?
Welcome, Kirbs. I'm gonna gas you up a little bit. I will admit.
All right.
Guy L7GM has drafted multiple winning teams. Unfortunately, just not any championships. But we have first seed last season Apprentice. Let's go.
Woo!
Yeah.
Big drive to get there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, so to jump right in to this post preseason predictions, I say we jump in to prospect first, and then just go down the line: prospect, apprentice,
Yeah,
expert,
no, that works.
mythic.
Yeah,
Sounds
and
good.
just a little preface before we start here. This is being recorded after match day 1 was played, so
Correct.
we've taken that into consideration with our selections here. And if you're offended, change something about it.
Yeah, we got a little bit of hot takes in here, I will admit. But Kirbs, I'll let you take it away with our prospect predictions. End of the season predictions.
End of season?
Yes.
I guess the first one. The person that I guess it might be semi-hot. I think High Tide's gonna be the clear winner of the tier. I don't think we see a contest.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
I think Airless is just really good, and I think they have a good supporting cast led by Mr. Vic.
Yeah, Mr. Vic seems pretty crazy in the tier. I mean, looking at their roster, though, they definitely have a lot of standout players. And providing, they have this cohesion, I mean, I think they really can go far as well. So I totally agree with you there.
I would have to agree as well. Mr. Vic played in a couple of combined apprentice prospect matches at the end of the combines this season, and top fragged in a couple that I saw. So I think that they're definitely a contender. But as we know, cohesion of a team can slowly but surely separate, and the teams that you expect to be on top could end up in the 8-hole. So don't take it as we don't believe in you. It's just right now, high tide's rolling. The tides are rolling.
Roll Tide,
Baby.
All right. So number 2, if you don't mind, I would like to jump in on this one. Being that I am an LG member, I would like to vote LG finishes 2 seed in prospect. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think they're missing some key players from last season, and just seeing how their performance will change whenever you're losing the MVP to Apprentice Red Rose team here. So Yin and Blundering made a big difference on that team, and I'll be kind of curious to see how they rebuild around a different core group.
Yeah. Kirbs?
Yeah, no, I agree. They'll probably make a second. I could see him dipping third or fourth as a surprise. I think the key thing for this roster will likely be how well defense can structure this team. I mean, he's done in the past. He's structured the last two, 3 teams he's had. So it would be a major shock, probably to everyone who watches Prospect if LG does not make playoffs. They have to be a lock.
Absolutely. Well, all right. What are we thinking about 3 and 4? Who makes the cut for playoffs at the end of the season?
I'm not so sure. This is where it gets dicey for me.
Yeah.
There's like 4 to 5 teams I can see getting those last 2 spots. It's going to be a dogfight right to the end.
Oh boy. So who do you think are what 3 teams do you think are fighting for the spot? The 3-4 or 4 teams?
I think OS for sure. I think that's going to be a
OS?
lock that they're going to be fighting.
I think
They're
that's reasonable.
they're normally a very competitive team. So historically,
Actually, OS, keep an eye out for history of the orgs, by the way. OS Prospect has made Prospect Grand Finals all 5 seasons. Now, they've only been able to take it down twice, if I recall correctly. However, a 100% make it ratio is pretty good, if I do say so myself.
I mean, those are Tom Brady numbers right there. I mean, Spence knows what he's doing, and he's shown it throughout all the tiers as there are OS teams are always very competitive. So I expect nothing less here in season 6. But I will say, seeing Selgi play today in the prospect match, I think Party Animals might have something to say about that 3 spot.
Yeah, no, Solgi has been absolutely smurfing. Earlier today, I know that they did drop, what was it, almost 30 on the first map. So
Yeah,
if they can keep
29.
that up during the season, that might be pretty crazy. But who do we think is going to be in the 8 hole? Who's the Mr. 8 ball? What team is locking it in last place?
TT.
TT?
I'm fairly comfortably. I mean, I could see a world where maybe VTX or another team does it, but I think TT is pretty high up there. They're gonna. No, I mean, no disrespect to the players. I just don't know whether that team skill will match up to the others.
That's fair. That's fair. Do they have any standout players you think that could say, try to push them outside of this 8 seed? If you would even call it a seed, because they wouldn't be in playoffs at that point.
I don't know. I mean, I could see Tiny Elephant or Nightcreed. I'm pretty, from what I recall, I think Nightcreed was on one of the winning OS teams in Prospect. I might be mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're probably gonna be looking at Nightcreed and Tiny Elephant was I think it was their first 2nd-round pick to get him out of 8th place, or at least be competitive and fight for that spot, last playoff spot.
Very
I like
cool.
that.
Curbs, do you have any preseason prediction on a possible MVP in the tier, or is it too tight a competition at the top to really pinpoint an MVP
It's
type player?
it's way too tight. I mean, previous seasons there's always been 1 or 2 clear cuts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, although a lot of people are going to say airlifts, I think be careful for Nibroc. I'll say Zachary, the person I drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
Even Ash. I think there's I can see at least 5 to 6. I mean, Sogi, look at Sogi's performance today was exceptional. I see at least 5 people who probably are in the running for MVP. It's going to be a close one this season. And I mean, that's really good for the tier. To see that there's not just one person just
Bragging.
fragging over everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's a common theme throughout all the tiers this year. I think there's the competition with the MMR, the way it's spread out this year. I think it's very competitive from top to bottom in quite a few of the tiers. Obviously, I think once you get near the bottom, it gets a little thin, but I think when you're in the meat of the, after probably, I think every tier has a pretty good 1 seed clear cut at the moment, but I think when you get to 2 through 6 or 7, I think in some of the tiers, it gets, depending on the day, that team's going to beat the other team.
Yeah. Well, speaking of other tiers, how we jump right into Apprentice here. Who do we think is going to be 1 seed? Do we see another L7 1 seed? And do they actually make it to Grand Finals this season? Curbs, I'll let you answer that one.
It's going to be interesting. I generally have no clue Apprentice is going to go. I see 8 teams, about 7 to 8 teams that can make a case for first place right now. I think every team is likely rebuilding or kind of in a way restructuring or trying to work the chemistry. It's possible we make first place, but there's a couple of contingencies I relies on. I wouldn't lock it in.
That's reasonable. I do 1000% agree. I mean, it looked like from last season, so many teams either lost players to schedule conflicts or moving up a division into expert, or just MMRs are just crazy high and some people just can't fit. Not only that, we also had, franchise mix-ups a little bit, where certain franchise no longer exists. Rest in peace, ATO. But no, I think there are some solid, really solid teams that can all individually make these playoffs. But I do want to set a top four, a 1 through 4 seed of the playoffs at the end of the season. What are we thinking, Jordo?
Yeah, I mean, as much as it burns me in my blood's boiling right now. Um, I'm gonna have to go with a spicier pick. Just based on the pure talent of the roster when you look at it on paper. I think the Mafia at the top spot. But like I said, I think that the top, honestly, 5 or 4 teams in this tier on our list could probably interchangeably be at the number 1 spot. I think L7 potentially could have been a number 1 seed, possibly, just depending on what kind of happens with Scoot and his situation, as well as will there be possibly a return of Liler off of the injured reserve list? Find out next episode, I suppose, right? Um, but yeah, so there's some key players from last season that L7, which was so dominant that they lost, with both duelists being absent, some new pickups of some really good players there. I think
Yeah,
it'll be
King Cozy.
yeah, King Cozy, a very talented prospect player that was called up. I think that that'll be a interesting just tier in general. I think there's just so much talent floating around on every team that every team has a chance to win every match day. So
Yeah,
with the number 1 pick, I'd probably say Mafia. I think have the upper edge at the moment.
gotcha. So I think we're pretty confident locking in L7 at 2 then.
Yeah, I think L7 at 2 is a pretty safe pick. But like I said, with one of your key players being a former prospect player, can they handle the pressure and the adversity that comes with, coming into the league, making a name for yourself, and then being the carry of a team? That's tough. And obviously, Kirbs plays on that team. Probably pretty happy to hear our thoughts and opinions as a fellow rival. Um, Sorry about last season, Kirbs. Um,
Yeah, it's all fun
but
good fit.
but but I think L7 at 2 is a safe pick. Do you have any thoughts on the roster and how you're feeling after match day 1?
I'm gonna be real. I don't think we played as a full 5 yet.
Oh,
We still haven't played yet. But from what it's looking like, it's gonna work, and we're looking forward to. We have some players I think people are probably sleeping on. I think Ben, in particular,
I like Ben 10s.
Hmm.
Ben
Good
Tens.
friend of ours on the pod.
Yeah, he big vibes. I probably not many people probably know about him, but I'm looking forward to seeing his performance this season.
Yeah,
And then, and then
I will say I am looking forward to that as well.
Hmm.
yeah, then
Uh,
Flair is very under the radar, so
yeah,
I'm intrigued to see him prove people wrong.
Flair is definitely a solid player. I mean, I primarily know them as a duelist, primarily on Jet. However, I think, I definitely think that they have the foundation to succeed in the apprentice tier very much.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I agree. Flair's a good friend of mine as well. Played on a team in another non-important league. Um, and great guy, great player. I think you guys got a bunch of good vibes on that team, so I think you guys
Absolutely.
will have the recipe for success there. Um, at the number 3 spot, I have High Tide. I've
High
got
tide.
a lot of good friends on this team.
Oh,
They play together pretty much every day. Tiberson's at work playing Valorant with Banjo. I mean, the grind's there.
Yeah.
Um,
They also have one
possibly,
Ninja Army.
yeah, One Ninja Army is also another grinder that plays with them in that 3 stack frequently that I see. So I think that they have the chemistry to go really far. But On the flip side of that, just to play devil's advocate, there's a lot of new players in the league that, maybe not be able to handle the pressure when the lights start shining on playoff time. And,
Absolutely.
you see a lot of teams start to kind of crumble in the last couple of match days when you have a lot to play for.
I will say, don't sleep on a team of rookies, being that last season, 4
Uh-huh.
rookies took it to the grand finals in LG Apprentice. Let's go. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. But no, I think they really have a good team. I think they're currently favorited for first seed right now, but especially after 2-0ing Mafia game 1. But there's still a lot of question marks and a lot of things that need to be answered. So I think 3 is reasonable, and then for 4, I mean, let's be real, man. I can't just not put us in playoffs. We're gonna win the whole thing this season. So LG at 4. Hot take: putting Omnipotent Sandwiches and OS, a heavy favorite, down to 5 or 6, right next to Project Nova. And any predictions on bottom seed, the 10 hole for Apprentice?
Yeah, it's the classic party animals pick here.
Yeah.
I think,
It feels rough for them.
yeah, a bunch of great people, but I think just with the tier and how competitive it is, I just don't think they have the formula for success. Although with just a little disclaimer, they did go 1-1 against Project Nova. And another disclaimer too, High Tide, while they might be the fan favorite at the current state of the league, they are very much so um, playing against a team with 2 close games in MF, and the duelist that is, considered the carry of the team on that particular roster, performed very poorly. So I'd like to see a rematch there where Royal steps up to the plate and does, what everyone has expected of him this season. So
Yeah.
I think that could have easily been a 2-0 in the other direction.
No,
I
for sure.
I will be real. I will be honest, I disagree about World to Carry. I think a lot of people are sleeping on some other players on that team.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think although the Royal's a popular one, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Drag.
I think
Who
Drag is a phenomenal player as well.
Yep.
Drag is, in my opinion, Drag is the best player on that team.
Yeah, Drag's got really
And
good aim as well.
yeah, and it doesn't just come with team, just with her skills. Obviously, one of the best in the tier, but it's also vibes, her ability
Vibes are a
just
huge
to
factor.
counter team.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and another person that I think a lot of people shouldn't sleep on is Blossom.
Yeah.
Because while Blossom was, if case some people don't know, Blossom was practically the 6th man at times for the expert team of MF last season,
Oh,
even
wow.
though she was an FA. So that's an important tidbit.
Yeah, and
Just
Blossom also uh won a grand finals alongside me in another league that shall not be named in season 2. And so they definitely have some experience in those high pressure situations. So if they can make it to grand finals, I think I would be very confident in having that person as my leader. Or actually, I think they are the IGL, or
they
she is the
have
IGL.
they have 2 players who have won trophies before, either in this league or the other one that we shall not name.
Nice.
Since Drag has won a trophy with OS, so
Nice.
Very
I think
nice.
they make playoffs. There could be some serious damage, but they have to
Absolutely.
get them first, and it's going to be a slugfest the entirety of Apprentice.
Yeah. So, expert, what do we think is going to go down for the top 4 in expert? I want to say I think there is a clear-cut number 1 seed.
Yeah, probably due to the chemistry and the fact they're running it back. I think OS likely takes the first place seed here.
I
It's
agree.
it's just the players they have. It's in a way they kind of got lucky with who they were able to retain on that roster and who they promoted. It's they kind of got real lucky with MMR, and I think anything under, in my opinion, second place would be a disappointment.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very reasonable answer. But with the clear cut, now it's starting to get a little bit dicey finding 2, 3, 4 for this expert division. What are we thinking? 2, 3, 4. What's coming up?
I think one team I will say I wouldn't be surprised if they made it would be VTX.
If they did not,
If they did make it, I think VTX will make the cut. I think they'll make top 4. I think they get a lot of flack probably because of previous seasons, but I think the roster they have is slept on. I think they're going to show up.
absolutely. I would like to see a little bit of a change of pace from the expert team for Infinite Vortex. For a team or for a franchise that has been in the league since season 2, Expert is their only team, if I recall correctly, that has not made a playoff appearance. So if they can make the cut this season, maybe we see a little bit of a swing in momentum, and maybe they take it all the way. That could be wishful thinking.
I could definitely see that happening. I mean, they have the players to do it.
I like that.
I mean, it starts with the GM Hunter, who is proven to be a good player and expert. Then you have Lee, who just got promoted, their best player from last season, Apprentice. And then you have Snowy, and then Dolbus. There is a good team there. I think a lot of people might be sleeping on them.
I agree.
I like that pick. I think you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You know that old saying. So, hopefully they have the formula to success here, and hopefully they can execute it if they just play their game. But history tends to repeat itself for a reason. So
A good point.
We'll see.
That's fair.
So we got OS, VTX, both making cut. Who we got in the final 2 spots?
I'm gonna bite my tongue here because I thought they were gonna be a dumpster fire after draft. PA.
Yeah. PA.
I think PA makes the cut. I thought that team would not mesh. Turns out they are, and in fact, a bit too much. That team is gonna make the cut.
I didn't see their showing after match day 1. Was it strong?
I think one of their players dropped 38 kills.
Oh boy. Okay. So yes. Sounds pretty strong. So PA, Infinite Vortex, Omnipotent Sandwiches. Jordo, who you think's making the last one?
It's got to be the Garden.
The Garden? I'm down with the Garden. Maybe we try to do another all 4 teams in every division. Makes the cut.
Why not run it back? I gotta have faith in my org. Aklar has drafted some really great teams. Took a chance on 4 rookies in Apprentice last year, and it took him to the grand finals. And I have faith that Aklar, with the amount of scouting that he does, chose wisely here and made a great team to be able to make the playoffs.
I like that pick.
Yeah,
all right.
No, for sure. I
think close.
I just wanted to add one thing for you. I think the key thing for LG and Expert is going to be how they perform with having Jade cutted. I think Jade probably one of the best players here, and I'm really intrigued to see how Zoro's going to perform. If your franchise really thought, I think that's going to be the biggest question mark, is whether they can keep up their play after cutting Jaded.
Aklar does have a history of making questionable cuts, aka TK last season. But fingers crossed, last one paid off for the most part. Hopefully this one also pays off. But to close out Expert, who's the 10 seed? Who's the Owen X number for Expert?
It's between 2 for me.
Hit me.
PN and KC.
PN and KC.
I'm even willing to bet there's 0% chance either those 2 teams make playoffs.
Do you think there's a large sum of money on one of those teams finishing at the very bottom? Who would you throw your house on if you had to choose between the 2?
I split that money in 2 and put on both. I think one of those 2 teams is going to end up at the bottom. I think KC. I think Prono has enough firepower to not be last. Yeah, those I'm not confident about those. I think probably KC It's likely the 10 seed.
That's reasonable. That's reasonable. Well, last but not least, we have Mythic. Who do we think is making the cut in Mythic? You know what? Actually, let's start off Mythic tier. Who's bottom seed? Who's the takes the 8? What are we rocking with? Jordan, I'll let you take this one.
It's got to be the Mafia.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just looking at their roster compared to some of the other ones at the top, it just does not seem like they have the paper roster that you see in the tough division that it is. I mean, there's some really, really talented players floating around, and I just don't think they have the firepower to compete at the top of the division. I know Kirbs will be really happy with their Mythic team, as it's a very, very talented team, as we'll talk about here shortly, I'm sure. So, yeah, the Mafia is the team that I would probably pick to put on the bottom there.
Nice. Curves, rapid fire. Who do you think is 1, 2, 3, 4 in Mythic?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
L7.
L7.
PA KCLG.
PA, KC, LG.
Yeah.
You know what? I love that. LG making the 4 seed in almost every single division. I'll take that. L7, I will say, L7 looks really strong. I would not be surprised if you guys take the 1 seed. However, we do know the 1 seed history. So fingers crossed, if you do make 1 seed, we make it past first round.
Yeah.
Well, not we. I guess you.
All I will say that I think the last 2 first overall picks in Mythic have won championships. So I'm hoping we make it 3rd time in a row.
Okay. Hey, 3rd time's a charm, right? And, well, I guess does that apply when it's already been a thing? Surely.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's Kirbs luck right there. That's what you call it.
hey, lucky 7 for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not the unluckiest org.
Yeah.
Shout out History of the Orgs VDC.
I'm hoping that luck the other orgs had. I mean, I think the PA when they drafted Bucks first overall, PN
Yep.
when they drafted well they were IE at the time. They drafted Stick first overall. To a lot of people's surprise, they both went up winning championships. So I'm hoping we keep on that luck.
Do you have
I think that's a good train to hop on.
Yeah. Do you have a sleeper pick for a late shout on a Mythic MVP? I know there's a lot of really good players here, but do you have one that you think stands out among the rest this year?
Ooh. I think one to not sleep on is probably Eclipse on PA.
For expert?
We talk for expert or Mythic?
Mythic.
Oh, you said Eclipse.
Eclipse.
Okay.
I see. My bad.
Eclipse.
Too many names that sound like the same.
Honestly. Yeah, no, Eclipse. He's a known fragger in Mythic. He's on his day probably top 2 in the tier.
Wow.
I would be very careful not to sleep on him. If you sleep on him on a match day, you are going to get cooked by him.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well,
better watch out, everyone.
Yeah. Seriously. So, anything else you'd like to leave us with? Maybe a little surprise, little promo before we let you go here, Kirbs?
About L7 Gamba?
Oh, L7 Gamba! Yes!
Where's my degenerate
L7
gamblers
Gamba.
at in the VDC?
Yeah, L7 since last season. We've been running in our own Discord server, Gamba, so for every match day we have about 4 or 5 predictions. We aim to have at least one on the stream game, have at least another match, another prediction on another match, and then we have at least 3 to 4 individual stat predictions.
Oh.
So if you're interested in that and you want to come Gamba, I think today one of our predictions had 32 bets, which is a record.
But Kirbs,
Okay.
I don't have real money to throw around on Valorant. What can you do to fix that? Is this do I have to dip in my pockets, or is this fake money?
Oh, it's fake. It's fake money. When you join it, we hook you up with 300 points to start off with, so you're all set and you're ready for the first. You're ready for the first prediction.
You can just jump right in.
Yeah, you jump right in.
Love that. Well, I personally just lost 10 of my 300 given coins or Gamba points today. I unfortunately took the under Well, I guess it wasn't an over/under, but I said that Stolgi was going to have more first deaths than she had first kills, and it really wasn't even remotely close. So, if we ever start saying, "Hey, this is my pick for this week's Gamba," don't tail me because I am not great. It seems like.
I also tailed Dan, and I also lost 100 points.
Oh boy. I'm
Yeah,
pretty happy. I was confident that people would get the 2-0 and I won my gamble, luckily.
Love that.
With the period 2-0.
But yeah, so everybody, if you're trying to have a little bit of fun, trying to gamble some fake money on some VDC props, be sure to join the L7 Discord. The link will be in the description of the YouTube video of the podcast. Yeah, go gamble some money. It's gonna be
yeah,
fun. Kirbs, thank you so much for hopping on the cast. It's been phenomenal having you, and
Thank you for having me
look
here.
forward to the next time we see you on.
yeah.
All
Thank you,
right.
Kirbs.
Thanks for having me here.
In our next segment of the podcast, we have some exciting guests coming up here that will be kind of breaking down some of the questions we have. Kind of shout out to Nade first before we steal his segment from his great Substack that he had last year. We liked this idea a lot, and so we figured we kind of pass the torch on since Nade is no longer Substacking for the league here. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce a good friend as well as a great player and a great human being and well-known face of the league, the #1 overall pick in this year's Apprentice draft for Season 6 of the OS organization, TerrorKid 1275. TK, how are
Oh,
you? How are you feeling today about your season and being the #1 overall pick?
Bro, I'm actually like so excited. Like I was a bit concerned going into the draft that, might not be rostered like last season, but going in 1 overall,
Please sign
big shout
FA
out.
TerrorKid.
Yeah, yeah. Sign TerrorKid 1275. The first question we kind of have for you is the first overall draft pick. Obviously, you're a veteran of the league. You've been through multiple, iterations of combines and just the season in general. How did you enjoy combines this year, and how do you think you performed in combines? And do you think that your combine performance kind of sets you aside as the #1 seed this year, or do you think your reputation as a consistent performer through multiple seasons kind of gave you that upper edge on some of the newer faces that maybe could have arguably been a #1 pick?
Well, I haven't historically been a fan of combines, but this season combines actually went like really well. Most of the teams that I was on had chill vibes. Everyone was having fun, which is what you want with combines because that's when
Yeah.
people play at their best. How did I perform? Uh, if you ask me, I'll say I didn't do great. But I was able to show my versatility with filling like almost every game I played. So that OS, as they drafted me, now know that I can play pretty much anyone to some degree of success.
Yeah. Do you think, being kind of a flex player boosts your odds in
I
getting drafted?
Yes, I would definitely say it would. That along with being a very solid and well-known IGL and apprentice,
Love
I
that.
think that definitely boosted my draft stock.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Were
No.
you surprised to go first overall?
Absolutely. I'd been reaching out to GMs, as one does before the draft.
Yeah.
I knew that A team was interested and OS was not that team. So going first overall to OS was definitely a shock. Because as far as I knew, Spence had no interest, and then turns out he had quite a bit of interest apparently.
Yeah.
So
I
so it's safe to say that he didn't reach out prior
No,
to
he
the
did
draft.
not. I expected him to have.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I thought it was really cool to see you go first overall, just
Yeah.
knowing like kind of the pathway that you kind of took last year with
Poetic.
with where your MMR was, you kind of, arguably had one of the biggest betrayals in recent VDC history with a good friend cutting you from LG.
I wouldn't say it
Very,
was a
very late.
betrayal. Much
Very
love to
late.
Uklar.
Yeah, no, we love Aklar, but you got to dramatize it a little bit, right? Uh, but I think whenever that happened, I was like, oh man, how is TK kind of rebound? You kind of went quiet and just subbed here and there.
For expert.
Um, for expert even, yeah, because of your MMR being where it was at, had some success there, and was considered super sub TK. I didn't even expect you to see you in the apprentice tier, but
Yeah.
number one overall pick, I think it was a great pick there by OS. So
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, I agree. So what do you think of your team's draft overall? Like, do you guys have high hopes for the season? You might be a little bit disappointed of your seeding in the earlier segment. However, you're just going to need to watch when it
Oh
comes out.
no.
dun dun dun.
Chat, they did not tell me where my seating is, just so you know. I actually really like my team. I think that we're going to be very competitive. We had a rough first match day, but that's to be expected when I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I was expected to be IGL this season. So without your IGL, things definitely don't always go as to plan as you expect.
Yeah.
But they still got a map against the defending champs, and that's always a big plus.
Absolutely. Do you think anybody fills the role that Spence left? And two
I
Wrath?
fill the role.
Yeah, I like that. I
I
like that
fill the role
attitude.
that Spence left. Arguably better because I don't only play duelist.
W. W.
Yeah, you hear that,
So you
Spence?
have
Yeah, you hear that, Spence? I'm better than
you have high hopes then for the
I
season?
do. I do. I really think that we're going to be contenders at very bottom, bare minimum, playoff bound. 100% in my
I
mind.
like that.
Yeah,
I
that's a
like
very
that.
good. That's a very good, accurate pick you had there. A little
Oh,
foreshadowing, maybe.
interesting.
Or backward shadowing?
Backward shadowing.
Ooh.
Mm.
Speaking of contenders, though, TK, you being in the league as long as you have a little bit more insight maybe than most players. But if you had to kind of pick your kind of playoff contenders, teams that you maybe are a little scared of this season, when it comes to these teams have maybe a potential to win championships over us. What are some of those teams and your kind of reasoning behind it?
My biggest op, I should say, is going to be L7, absolutely. I think that they have a very strong team. Kirbs and Scott from last season, definitely very solid. King Cozy 29, my good friend, also super underrated. He is very low MMR for his skill level. And I think he's going to be able to do a very good job carrying that team to playoffs, potentially another first place finish and another first round L7 exit.
History
Fingers
does repeat
crossed.
itself.
Yeah, fingers crossed they don't make the 1 seed because then that's guaranteed.
That's true. That's
They're
true.
just gonna leave. So
Well, the
maybe a
1
2
seed is going to
seed.
be OS, so
I like
Very
that. I like that
interesting.
prediction. We'll see if we'll see if it comes to fruition.
we will.
Yeah.
We will.
We will. We will. Did anybody surprise you during this draft? Other than it sounds like you may have been a little bit surprised that you went number 1 overall, but besides that surprise, was there any other, potential surprises in the draft that like you didn't expect somebody to get taken or you think somebody should have gotten taken way earlier than they actually did?
I definitely think Royal should have been taken earlier. I think that's kind of a cop-out answer, but Royal is
That's
definitely
actually
top 3 duelist at the very least.
yeah.
And so him falling into the 6th round, I think it was definitely a bit of a shock.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie, that almost slipped my mind when I was writing in this question that Royal was so late.
He
But
was
Yeah.
drastically late.
We just
yeah.
gave TerrorKid an absolute alley-oop of an answer.
You really did.
It's like prime show Kobe and Shaq right there from the Retired God. The
Aside from
and
Royal, though,
who would expect nothing less than another assist from the retired god. I mean, this guy's
Ah.
crazy.
True. So real.
And the
Um,
IGLing of Kobe, like, from TK there on the court and on the battlefield. So
yeah, they call me the John Elway of Valorant, actually.
Hell yeah. Hell
True
yeah.
story, by the way.
I'm
Aside from
looking forward to
Royal,
hearing that story.
aside from Royal and keeper picks, I was definitely a bit shocked to see Zeno go second overall.
Yeah.
I think he's a very solid player, but I did not expect to see him go that high.
Yeah, I mean, it's been unfortunate for a couple teams where some of these early first round draft picks just haven't, are no longer rostered, and for whatever reason it may be. I mean, you see, who is the 101 from Expert? Start with an M.
Muppet.
Muppet. I mean, Muppet no longer with the team that drafted them number 1 overall. Zeno no longer with the team that drafted them number 2 overall. So it really is crazy. And the same thing happened with me last season as well, where, in Apprentice, I was drafted number 2 overall. And by the end of preseason, I wasn't kept. Luckily, thanks to Uklar dropping
Poke
TJ,
the bear, why don't you?
I was able to get picked up, but no, it is unfortunate seeing that happen, and obviously you want to see these players getting picked up by other teams, especially if they went so early in the draft. Surely they had some other draft capital, but sometimes it just doesn't work out like that, and it's tough to see. So, but I do agree. I was surprised to see that as well.
Yeah, no, TK, yeah, I mean, we're really one final question here for you. It's kind of like a two-parter here, I suppose, is that as the number one overall pick in the draft, there's a lot of expectation of you to be the best player in the league, to lead your team to a championship, and all the pressure there. Do you think you have what it takes to be crowned MVP and or champion by the end of this season? And if you don't think you're MVP, who do you think is your shout at MVP for the Apprentice tier?
That's a loaded question right there. To address the second half first, I do think that me and my team have what it takes to win this season. We have a very solid roster all around, good vibes on the team always, and very solid players in every role, which is exactly what you want from a team that's trying to make a championship run. I think that a lot of my teammates are very undervalued with their MMR, so it allows for us to have a very strong team. As for me being MVP, I do believe that I am arguably the best player in the tier. However, I don't think that it will reflect on the seeable stats in order for me to get MVP. A lot of my value comes from IGLing and flexing, which doesn't show up on the stat sheet in terms of who's going to be MVP or not. And so I don't think that I will end up being MVP, but I do think I'll be in the argument or in the conversation for MVP.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be pulling for you. That's for sure.
I appreciate
And
that.
and I do agree. I think there are a lot of abstract concepts that need to be taken into account that some people just might not see. Whether it's like for example, what would Sentinels be without a vibes merchant? You know what I mean? Like
True.
Zelsis definitely carries a little bit of weight there, whether he's fragging or not. But there's definitely a lot, and I think you guys definitely do have a huge like upside, and I do think you guys have the potential to take it home. So I'm pulling for you.
Thank
And
you.
Jordan, what about you? Honestly, I'd be praying for your downfall if I was Jordan.
Yeah, I will say though, TK is a good friend, and I love competition. But personally, I'm one of the people that if you don't bet on yourself, then why are you even playing the game?
I respect that.
I think I was really undervalued last year, being just above tier minimum in Apprentice, and I think still getting rated as 5th, 6th best duelist on some people's tier list after, dropping nearly 450 kills as a Sentinel main, spoke volume. And then now this year I came out in the first match and I've dropped, I'm leading the league in kills behind King Cozy. Hashtag bang,
Hashtag
So,
bang.
Fair enough.
I pray on TK's downfall in both categories, but I also hope that he has a great season from the friend
Absolutely.
standpoint. So,
I respect that.
Yeah, and I
but-
mean, like at the end of the day, you got to have that kind of confidence going into every set if you want to perform well.
That's true.
You got to go in like knowing
You're the
deep
better
down
team.
you're the
better
best player in that fucking. You're the best player in that server.
It's okay, Daniel. It's okay.
But
If you want my MVP predictions, I got a couple of names I can throw out there.
Yeah, let's
Hit
hear
me, hit me.
you got your top
All right.
3, top 5, TK. What do you have
top
here?
3. I like the top 3. All right, so I got the cop out answer of Royal, arguably the best duelist in the tier. I think Royal and BK are both up there together. I think they can kind of share that number 1 spot since they're both duelists on very, very potentially strong teams. And typically duelist players end up shining the most in terms of MVP voting because of the stats. I think Coach Searing is slightly more of an underdog in the running for MVP, but I do think that he's going to provide so much value to his team. And I know that he is a very solid fragger. And then my personal favorite for MVP this season, I'm going to put King Cozy 29 out there. I think he is super underrated, and just from looking at the first match day scoreboards, they lost 6-13 with King Cozy putting up a match MVP for performance. 24, 15, and 6 while
That's
losing
crazy.
6-13 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I know firsthand that he is super consistent. He is a smokes player as well, so the stats might not particularly favor him, but I know that he will be able to frag his way out of it. And I do think that he could very well end up being the MVP this season.
I think that's incredibly reasonable.
Yeah, no. I even agree there. I think that those are all great players that there's a lot of experience in playing in this kind of setting that they all 3, 4 have that you've mentioned. Coach Searing being super sub of Apprentice last year, being an RFA. So, I mean, he made a lot of teams win games when he would sub for them. So, I could see all those being a possibility.
Well, TerrorKid, I think I'm gonna let you go get a little bit of sleep here, catch some Z's. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an awesome first interview guest,
For sure.
and
Thanks for
I'm
having
looking
me.
forward to having you in the future for future episodes,
I'm always
if you so
available.
choose.
I'm always down.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, TerrorKid.
You guys are welcome. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
got a
Oh.
great, what a great guy right there we had on. TK, always great to hear from him and, see what his thoughts are on the league. Speaking of great guests, we have another one that is coming on board, another number 1 overall draft pick that many of you may know, and ironically enough, from the same organization.
yeah.
We have Nibroc from OS. Nibroc, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. You're the 2nd official interviewee that we've had on the pod and 3rd guest overall on the revamped podcast for the VDC. So thank you for coming here tonight. I know it was a little bit later than anticipated, but we appreciate your flexibility for us.
Yes, it's great to be on. Excited to talk to you guys.
So
Nice.
kind of diving into the meat of the questions here. As you played in your combines this year, how did you enjoy your combines, and do you think that you performed well enough in the combines to kind of capture that number one overall pick, or what factors do you think led to you being that number one overall pick? You think it was your combines or other intangibles?
My first few combines were pretty rough. I feel like I was not performing. I was pretty nervous at first, being my first season, but towards the later half, I feel like I did a lot better. And I think the one game that pretty put me on everyone's radar was when it was combines with Prospect and Apprentice.
Yeah.
I did all right there. I felt like I was doing good. I was feeling myself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's when you came onto my radar. I was like, I was watching the stream game. Actually, I think I was observing that game, and I was like, dude, this guy is frying. Like, the aim was crisp, the decision making was solid. You were clutching up. I was like, dude, this guy's Prospect. So I think that assessment is fair. That really put you on the map, and I think that from what I saw, at least, the number one pick was justified.
Yeah, no,
But
I agree. I think
the
there's the same thing for me there. I mean, I played in that match, and
oh, that's
I
right.
and I was a scout for LG, and you're definitely one of the players that I noted down just mentally. You stuck out among the prospects in that match for sure, and
Yeah.
and obviously now being the number one overall pick, fast forwarding from that moment, I think OS, spent their first pick like as well as they could have this
Yeah.
year. So, how's your experience been in this league, so far as a whole? I know you're new to the league. How'd you find out about the league? And what were your expectations going in, and then how are they so far?
Well, I mean, I found out the league just by a fluke. I had happened to play a game with someone who was in it, like a few seasons ago or something, and he just added me to it, saying because we played a few games together, and then I was
That's
like,
awesome.
maybe I'll try it. I could see how this goes. And then I got here, so I've been having a good time. I was nervous at first, but now that I know some people, it's kind of
Yeah.
kind of a vibe, fun to play with.
That's awesome. No, I love to hear that, and I didn't know anybody joined the league that way. So that's actually pretty cool to hear.
How do people normally join?
What?
How do people normally join then? Find out about it.
So we try to push out a lot of content. I mean, hopefully the podcast is able to capture a couple people, but this primarily is geared more towards people who are already in the league. However, there's a lot of TikToks, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, like stuff like that are getting pushed out that are trying to capture some new players' interest and maybe even some Reddit posts, and I think that's primarily where a lot of people discover the league, and I think we've done a decent job recruiting the past couple seasons, and here we are.
Yeah,
I mean, I joined last season.
the largest player base in VDC history this season.
Wow.
So,
W's in the chat.
Yeah, W's in the chat, and
W's
great
in the
great
chat.
job from the great job from the administrative staff for running a good clean ship, and all the hard work is paying off. So
Yeah.
shout out to the VDC staff, and it's good to see new friendly faces that are continuing to push the level of play, even in prospect,
Yeah.
up to a higher degree.
Well, hey, so I'm curious, were you surprised to go number one?
Oh, I was not ready. I was on the stream, was watch partying with people. I was expecting maybe number 20 or something.
Yeah.
I was not ready for it, and they called my name, and I was like, I don't even know what team I got. I wasn't even ready for it. I had to ask the people I was watching with. I'm like, what team did I get? What was I on?
That's crazy.
I was very surprised. I was very excited for that.
So did Spence, your GM, reach out beforehand or no?
No. I reached out to a few people, but OS was not one of them.
Seeing a trend
It
here.
seems like a trend. Yeah. Same thing happened with TerrorKid from who was the number one overall pick for OS and Apprentice, and he said the exact same thing.
They didn't reach out, yeah.
Yeah, no, that is funny. But yeah, speaking of like the rest of the draft, though, what do you think? your team's draft overall, and do you think you guys have what it takes to make it to playoffs?
Oh, I think definitely to playoffs. At first, I was unsure. I didn't know most of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't played with many of them, and so I didn't have any idea. But now that we've narrowed it down, and I've played with a few of them, or played with my team a bit, there's definitely a lot of potential there. There's definitely a lot of potential for every player to frag and
That's the best.
go well, do well. So I don't think it'll be as big of a skill difference on the team for me on here, but I think there's lots of room here.
Do you? I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Omnipotent Sandwiches prospect team has made the grand finals every season in prospect.
Oh,
Do you
man.
think you can live up to that?
Oh, that's tough. That's a lot of pressure.
It is.
I'm gonna
No
try my
pressure.
best. Definitely gonna try my best. I think there's a shot, but I think there's also some pretty good teams on here.
Yeah, for sure.
Might be close. It'll be close, I think.
Well, hey, I know as a stats guy, I like seeing those big 100s. That makes my life a lot easier. So if you guys can keep that 100%, make it to grand finals ratio, that'd be great. So I'm pulling for you. However, I know that a lot of teams, a lot of players on the division are looking for a little bit of a change up. So, be careful. You might have some enemies pulling for your downfall.
Yeah, speaking of
you
enemies,
go.
Yeah, speaking of enemies,
next game.
Yeah, who do you think are some serious playoff contenders early on in this season, in your opinion? And which is the scariest team in your opinion to face, where you're a little bit worried about them compared to the others?
Oh, for quite a while I was worried about High Tide. Till they had to make some cuts for their MMR to fit. But for that a while I was worried they were going to be the best team. They were going to steamroll a bit, but I think it's a little more even now with them. I don't really know much about Light Garden and their players. I didn't play with many of them during combines, so can't say. Just what I hear, that Light Garden's doing pretty well for themselves in the prospect tier. So
Yeah.
got our fingers crossed. I think they're probably the biggest contenders for us.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. We also thought pretty highly of High Tide's prospect team. However, I don't know. I might not be aware of some of these cuts. So maybe our predictions could be wrong. I guess everybody's just gonna have to find out at the end of the season. But in terms of LG has made playoffs the last 3 seasons in prospect, and has made grand finals once. And the one time that they did make it, they won. So, they have a pretty solid history, one of the better ones in the prospect tier for VDC, but they did lose a couple players from last season that got moved up to Apprentice. So you might get a little bit of a breath of fresh air.
Okay. All right.
I like that.
Yeah, no, I kind of leading into the next question is, I can probably picture what your answer is probably going to be to this question. Was there anything that surprised you from the draft that you're like, oh wow, that was pretty crazy? I mean, obviously, probably going number 1 overall is probably your number 1 answer on that list, but was there anything else that surprised you or shocked you? And then, what was your opinion as a new player of the draft, the presentation, and kind of the process that you went through?
Oh, it was very exciting to do the draft. It was a fun thing. It was something I looked forward to. So it wasn't something it was like an event, and everyone was excited for it, and I really enjoyed that. So
yeah.
But things that surprised me were I was in a call with a few of the High Tide members, and they were getting called back to back, getting picked back to back, and I thought, man, they are getting stacked, and that was between those two things, between me getting picked first and I think High Tide's draft, I was like, oh man, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, they definitely look scary. And I mean, they definitely have the potential to still be a scary team, like you said, though.
Yeah.
But I guess last but not least, you think you can, you think you got what it takes to take home MVP as the number one pick? And I mean, I guess also, do you think you live up to this OS name and take home the trophy?
Oh, I think I at least am accepted in OS. I don't know if I'm up to the name, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do MVP. I feel like Chairlift is gonna give me a run for my money.
Yeah.
He seems a little bit better. He's got that crispy aim. The aim kind of just runs over people.
Yeah, I mean, you also saw Solgi absolutely smurfing
Solgi
from
was
what it seemed like.
crushing it. Yes.
Yeah. So it seems like there are a lot of contenders for this this number one spot this season in prospect. So I am excited to see how that one turns out. But I think you guys have the possibility to take it home. If
Yeah.
history repeats itself, I mean, you guys are due.
I think if we get our coordination down on our team, and there's a lot of people wanting to put in a lot of effort on our team,
Mm-hmm.
so I think we can get a very well-rounded team together.
No, I agree.
Yeah, carrying that target around on your back all season long though can be quite the daunting task, and
Yeah.
some people crumble under that type of pressure. So I'll be really interested to watch this season and see how everyone on your roster kind of takes that pressure, and do you run with it in stride, or do
We
you
got
crumble
all the
under the
attention.
pressure?
We love the attention. We'll take it.
Oh yeah, thrive in the spotlight.
Thrive.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
There's no light bright enough to outshine the star player on OS.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in,
Of course.
answering the couple questions. I really look forward to seeing how you guys do the rest of the season. Like I said, if history repeats itself, you guys are due for a championship and a crown next to your name. So I'm rooting for that. But once again, thank you so much for coming on. It's
Thank
been a
you,
pleasure,
guys.
and hopefully we can catch you another time, potentially after a W in the grand finals column.
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll be
yeah,
there.
yeah. Thank you very
Awesome.
much. For being an honorary first guest on the pod, and best of luck this season. We'll be looking forward to watching you play.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see ya.
Well, everybody, if you have made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of the rebooted VDC podcast. We had a pretty banging, really jam-packed schedule today. Great predictions from Kirbs. We got to see what TK had to say and what Nibroc had to say as the number 101 overall pick. However, stay tuned because next episode we got two players to do the same interview as well, being the 101 pick from Mythic and the 102 from Expert being Clips, because unfortunately Muppet is not currently rostered. But yeah, we should be planning to release these every other week. So look, 2 weeks from this point, next episode should be up. But I think that is going to be it from us. Jordan, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, no, it's an exciting project, and we're excited to bring this type of long form content to the VDC. Um, if you guys have any ideas for the podcast segments, things that you would like to see in the pod in the future episodes, please feel free to reach out and DM us on Discord, and we'd be happy to talk. Maybe get an interview, or if you have any juicy drama that's going on around the league, then feel free to reach out to us, and we can. We can reach out to you regarding it, and maybe spill some beans on the podcast, and spice things up around the league a little bit. So that's all that I have from here. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a good first pod, and I look forward to, a few more for the rest of this season here. So,
Yeah. Well, with that, we will see you guys next time. And be sure to join L7 Gamba and look out for some potential podcast picks, maybe. Sounds
bye.
good. Bye.